Welcome back, Pokemon trainers. If you've been out on Twitter and you heard the news that Wolf Glick has made the finals in the Charlotte Regional Championships, and you're wondering who he's going to play, well, we're about to find out because our last top 4 match today is Ashton Cox versus Sean Bannen, and the winner, as we said, moves on against Wolf Glick in the finals.
Yeah, so obviously two phenomenal players. Ashton, the international champion from Brazil, coming off a very hot performance at both Collinsville and at the Oceania International Championships. Not a lot of people have heard of Sean Bannen before, last Internets, U.S. Internets, where he got top 4. But he's been rolling ever since, and he proves that wasn't just a one-time thing. He's still a very, very strong player that people have to be respectful of, and he's playing some pretty cool stuff today. We usually see Ashton the one playing all the innovative things, but we see the strong Blaziken from Sean.
Right, maybe some inspiration seeing how the meta is evolving, going with some fun things like that Blaziken that we saw. But Sean's also a nice guy. I like rooting for nice guys. And I was talking with Ashton, and he said this team he's brought for now 2.5 months of this one. He said, I'm running this team until somebody stops me. And nobody has been able to stop him at this point.
Oh yeah, the Salamence core gets even stronger now that Incineroar's in the format, just because Salamence has a very positive Incineroar matchup. It's something that you can bring against a lot of these Incineroar teams, and just like between that and the Tapu Fini, you can protect your Pokemon like Amoonguss very, very well. You have the Tyranitar to protect the Amoonguss. Amoonguss, one of the more problematic Pokemon in the format for a lot of teams, just because in the past we haven't had the strong fire types, but now that we even do have the strong fire type in Incineroar, because of the prevalence of Incineroar, we have it's still weak to imposing Intimidate, which is on pretty much every team. Ashton doesn't have his own Incineroar, has the Salamence, so he'll be able to abuse that before the Mega Evolution, and as we saw earlier today, he was able to do just that.
Right, and with all the Incineroar being weak to fighting, that's where Blaziken comes in and works. Of course, it does have Flare Blitz for its fire attack there, but more importantly, a strong same type attack bonus fighting type attack in this meta right now is pertinent with Tyranitar and Snorlax and Incineroar, and that's why you look like, wow, Blaziken this high up in a tournament, like that's why it's actually working very well. You can also Flare Blitz Amoonguss too.
Yeah, not only that Blaziken, but the Naganadel is also a phenomenal Pokemon that hasn't seen that much play early on in the season. It is one of the new Ultra Beasts that was released in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and hasn't seen too much play since that first week or two of the format. But Sean's showing that it is still a very strong Pokemon and functions on that team with that Blaziken and the other Pokemon you see on screen now.
All right, so top 4, our second match of top 4 here at the VGC 2018 Charlotte Regionals. Ashton Cox has a team of Tapu Koko, Amoonguss, Tyranitar, Tapu Fini, Aegislash, and Salamence, as Sean Bannen with that coveted Lele Gross and Metagross and Tapu Lele, Aegislash of his own, Blaziken, Snorlax, and Naganadel.
Yeah, we saw Ashton in top 8 play against another Lele Metagross team, and was able to abuse the fact that he had no terrain. His opponent had no terrain to stop the Spore from going up. On the other hand, though, Sean does have that Blaziken, that Tapu Lele has a lot of ways to hit it. So he has ways to deal with the Amoonguss. Might not be the strongest pick. He does have that Snorlax without something like a Trick Room mode to kind of have it benefit from the fact that it has such a low speed stat. So he has a lot of really strong tools. Just how does he exactly deal with the threats from Ashton here? The threats like Tyranitar, like Salamence. Ashton's goal is just the same as the last game. Just deal with the Metagross, deal with the Blaziken, deal with the Aegislash, and he's home free.
I think with Ashton's top 8 match, his opponent didn't have great options against Ashton's Aegislash. So the fact that Sean has his own Aegislash and Blaziken, so multiple ways of stopping it, is going to have to, it will force Ashton to kind of think differently, and maybe long term, because as you're saying, Metagross and Lele are the biggest damage outputters, the biggest threats on any team that they're combined in, and that's, Ashton, if he can get rid of that one counter to it in Aegislash, which we see here, Sean Bannen, top of your screen, has Aegislash and Metagross, as Ashton Cox on the bottom of your screen with Aegislash and Tapu Fini.
Yeah, we got one of my favorite and least favorite mirror matches of the game, the Aegislash mirror, because both of these players are carrying the Ghost EMC, so a lot of times it comes down to whichever trainers Aegislash moves first and gets that Ghost EMC off on the other Aegislash is absolutely pivotal to see who wins the matchup. Ashton does have substitute, so he does have the option of trying to instead just catch the Aegislash with a substitute and making blow its Z move into said substitute.
It looks like with 2 swords, I feel we could have a sword fight like we're fencing here in Charlotte. I don't know if it's that big or not, but I would like to see these 2 swords and shields go at it.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tapu Fini also can get some chip on that Metagross. Like we said in Game 1, Shadow Ball doesn't always quite pick up the knockout, so being able to get something like Muddy Water chip on the opposing Metagross would be absolutely phenomenal. Also probably chips the Aegislash into just Shadow Ball range.
Metagross, Mega Evolving Iron Head into Tapu Fini, brings it down to around half its HP. More importantly, flinches Tapu Fini, so it can't go for whatever attack it wanted to. And Sean, I believe that was Sean's trainer there. They both have the Z move, so I guess we'll find out in a second. But Aegislash, with a never-ending nightmare, is either going to knock out the Fini or knock out the Aegislash.
Yeah, it looks like that was Sean's, and that should be going into the opposing Aegislash as it is. And like we said, it is so pivotal. Whichever one of these Aegislashes moves first, and he has the Metagross and the Lele. It's something that we know is so important for Ashton to deal with the Metagross and the Lele, having that Aegislash, but losing it on turn 1 here is really bad spot for Ashton.
I also don't, I don't know what move, obviously, Ashton went for with his Fini, but I don't know if it would have changed the outcome too much, except for a Muddy Water accuracy drop later on. Obviously, wouldn't have affected the Z move this turn, but it still would have ended up likely that Ashton's Aegislash went down regardless of the flinch.
Yeah, the speed on the Aegislashes didn't really matter too much, or it did matter very much so, but the flinch rather on the Tapu Fini didn't really matter in the terms of the Aegislashes. What it did matter though is that now Metagross can get 2 hits on the Tapu Fini and pick up a 2 KO without Ashton even putting a point of damage on Sean's Pokemon yet.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. And they're both steel types, so Metagross and Aegislash, so they're not going to take any sand damage if that's it. So Ashton's going to have to do the old-fashioned way of actually attacking his opponent to get damage off. As Salamence switches in to the Tapu Fini slot, unless Sean went for an Ice Punch into Tapu Fini, not likely that Salamence is going to be too hurt on this turn. Metagross Iron Head into Tyranitar, does over half, super effective hit, activating Ashton's weakness policy, increasing Tyranitar's attack and special attack by 2 stages. Make it 3 stages while we're at it, because Dragon Dance from T-Tar now with an attack and a speed boost also. And the Sacred Sword, a fighting type attack on Tyranitar, so that the Dragon Dance and the weakness policy are such a big threat. Not in Game 1, as Sacred Sword knocks it out.
And Sean capitalizing on his lead, not going for King Shield with his Aegislash, saying I can afford to potentially lose my Aegislash if Ashton decides to go for a crunch, because I have such a big lead. I can go for Iron Head, I can go for Sacred Sword, and regardless, I'm going to get a lot of damage on that Tyranitar, or he's just going to go for Dragon Dance. I'm just going to clean knockout on it just all together.
That's a good point that you bring up about players being they can afford to lose their Pokemon. When you go for reads, you go for your most aggressive play. A lot of times, Aegislash attack King Shield, attack King Shield, attack King Shield. But Sean taking advantage of that common thought that players have, and maybe Ash was like, okay, I guess so King Shield to go back and bulk his defenses back up, but saying, no, I'm going to stay aggressive, and if I lose this Aegislash, it's okay, I'm still in a good spot, but because I played it right, I'm in an even better spot now.
Yeah, and Ashton still does have the option of Dragon Dance to try and work his way back into this game, but with that Metagross in the back, unless he can actually pick up a knockout with Earthquake, Ice Punch is going to probably do enough to Salamence to pick up a knockout eventually when it comes back in.
Mega Salamence here doesn't have Intimidate anymore with that Tapu Lele also switching in, setting up Psychic Terrain, and Aegislash will finally go back into its King Shield or Shield form by using King Shield, so its defenses are significantly higher up now. As Salamence with a Dragon Dance increasing its attack and speed by 1 stage, going in the same vein as Tyranitar did on the previous turn, but a Scald from Tapu Fini goes into the Aegislash's King Shield.
Yeah, that's what Ashton needs to do, is start working his way back into this game. He probably needs to either A, get some little bit of chip damage on the Metagross first before an Earthquake can KO it, or B, get a second Dragon Dance up and try and push himself into the range so that just 1 Earthquake will knock it out. But with that Aegislash on the Tapu Lele, he really just can't afford the Dragon Dance anymore.
Salamence with a +1 return into Tapu Lele. No chance at sticking around for that poor little Lele. Tapu Fini's Scald into Aegislash does around 35-40%, and now more than that, thanks to the burn at the end of the turn. At least it will be more than that. Shield form turning into blade form. Shadow Ball on Salamence, not enough for a knockout, but does get a special defense drop. I mean, most likely anyway, the Shadow Ball would knock it out next turn anyway, so it's not like that drop matters too much, and then Aegislash takes the burn.
So now everything on Ashton's side of the field is either in Metagross range or Aegislash range. But he still does have that Salamence. If he's able to do something like, go for Protect here, maybe put a Scald into the Metagross, get a little bit of chip damage that way. Earthquake probably knocks out both Aegislash and Metagross from this range, so a little bit of a chance to come back here. But I think Sean can just be pretty safe and, just try and pick up a knockout on the Feeny or on the Salamence this turn. Probably split your targets. Just put yourself in the best position to kind of close this game out very safely. I'm sure the last Pokemon on the back, as long as it can take one hit from the Salamence, then it should be able to close out the game very, very safely.
Right. The Aegislash will King Shield again, so it does go for that traditional attack and attack protect this time around for Sean. No attack from the Feeny or Salamence is going to matter into it. A return into that, so that actually lowers Salamence's attack by 2 stages, meaning it's going to do even less damage now, as an Iron Head will secure the knockout onto Tapu Fini. Ashton's down to just the Salamence right now.
Yeah, still, Earthquake from this range probably does not knock out the Metagross. Something like a critical hit could potentially pick up a knockout on the Metagross. He is a +1 attack. And then if Salamence can knock out whatever the Pokemon in the back is, Snorlax is probably the only thing that could potentially survive a return. But yeah, he is going to go for Earthquake. Does he get the crit?
That's the question right here. Aegislash is definitely going to go. No, not even. Didn't even take out that. That is what kind of neuters damage output is being a spread attack. So the Salamence goes down to Iron Head, and congratulations to Sean going up 1-0. He is now 1 win away. I don't believe he's won a regional before, right?
Nope.
So 1 win away from making it to the finals and taking names. So you would beat Ashton Cox and then go face Wolf Blake. Sean's in this a really big final 3 right now.
Yeah, I think you have to look back to his top 8 set again. How much work Aegislash put in that matchup against the Metagross and the Lele. In this game, in turn 1, game 1, he just lost his Aegislash to the Never-Ending Nightmare, and from there, Metagross just kind of ran over him from the rest of the game. He had really no way to come back from that. The flinch definitely hurt him, but I think more than anything, just losing the Aegislash to that Never-Ending Nightmare on turn 1 was absolutely devastating for Ashton.
So how can Ashton adjust there? Because unless it was pot luck that Sean's Aegislash outsped it and activated Z move before Ashton could, what can he lead potentially in this matchup to make sure he doesn't put himself in that situation where he has to cross his fingers and hope that his Z move goes first?
Well, if he does want to lead that Aegislash again, I think he has to do something like he did in the first game of top 8 and maybe lead the Amoonguss next to it. Obviously, you're afraid of the Blaziken, you're afraid of the Tapu Lele, so it's a really hard decision to do that. So I think maybe what Ashton might try to do is bring that Aegislash in the back and try and take care of stuff like the opposing Aegislash and the Blaziken before you bring your Aegislash in, and then you can have it work on the Metagross and the Tapu Lele a lot better.
So preserving Aegislash for later on in the match, the same way that Ashton did in top 8, where he saved Salamence until the end and waited till Metagross Mega Evolved to intimidate it and use that super effective Earthquake. So I guess not an aggressive opening for Ashton. You want him to try to take it slow. Yep. And now does Sean bring Blaziken here, or is it not necessary?
I think he probably wants to. I think that bringing Blaziken, if you think that Ashton's going to opt to bring the Amoonguss this game, since I think Amoonguss is the easiest way to say, all right, I lost because I couldn't protect my most important Pokemon in the matchup, so how am I going to protect it? The most obvious way is probably by bringing Amoonguss. So I think Blaziken's still a really strong option against this team. It does hit stuff like the Tyranitar, which we did see Ashton bring in that game, so it has a few purposes. He's very afraid of the Tapu Fini and the Salamence, though, so it would be understandable if he didn't, but I do think it's a very strong bring from Sean.
See if there's any adjustments. As of right now, there is Amoonguss and Salamence for Ashton, and Sean has Aegislash and Metagross. Of course, the Intimidate, Metagross will not take it from Clear Body as its ability, but Aegislash does have Sacred Sword, so it is -1. But of course, Sean wouldn't be Sacred Swording either one of Ashton's Pokemon right now.
Yeah, I think we might see what we saw in that game one. He can go for something like a Rage Powder and a Dragon Dance here, but I think it's much more in Ashton's interest to maybe just start going for Spores and trying to put Pokemon to sleep. Just trying to buy yourself as much time to get damage on Sean's Pokemon as possible, since though these Pokemon are not going to KO the Amoonguss unless the Aegislash does want to use the Z move here. But the combination of attacks is going to do a lot of damage to Amoonguss.
So Salamence with can stay in here safely, knowing that its partner has some redirection options, which is what Ashton actually does go for. Mega Salamence will probably be fastest on the field. I mean, it is a toss-up depending on how Salamence is trained between that and Mega Metagross, but we will see 2 Mega Pokemon activating on this turn. A Protect from Salamence here, and then the next attack would be from Metagross, which is an Ice Punch. Ashton making that call, thinking Metagross will go into that slot, and Sean saying, I don't need the Z move to take care of Ashton's Aegislash. I can find another way to get that damage off. I'm going to get rid of this this Amoonguss as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah, this should be into the Amoonguss, and if it is, it's a big question of whether or not it activates the berry on the Amoonguss if he hits him down below that 75% health mark, or the 25% health mark. And let's see if he does. He just gets it, and that's really good for Ashton. That means he's going to heal back up, and now Amoonguss can take 2 hits and get a Spore off.
That's true, as Spore will go into the Mega Metagross, and next turn, Sean, if he doesn't switch out the Aegislash, even if he goes for a King Shield, it can still get spored because King Shield does not have the same mechanic as Protect and Detect do, where certain moves like Taunt and Spore and status moves will still affect Aegislash when it King Shield.
Yeah, unless Aegislash is carrying something like a substitute, which I don't think it is, he can just really go for the Spore like you said. Might want to start Dragon Dancing with Immense. He could also potentially switch out, but he's just going to stay in.
No switching out yet. The Metagross has to stay asleep for that mandatory 1 turn, and now Salamence is faster after this Dragon Dance, increasing his attack and speed. Shadow Ball, no King Shield from Aegislash. Shadow Ball goes into Amoonguss, bringing it down to around 35%. A Spore on Aegislash. Now that has to be asleep next turn, and that is such a threat. You mentioned how Amoonguss is so important to Ashton's team because it can redirect, but mainly Sean doesn't know. He just has to hope. He doesn't know exactly when his Pokemon are going to wake up and do the moves that he chooses.
Yeah, and Amoonguss, usually carrying the Regenerate ability, can switch out now and recover so much health, as well as Aegislash being locked into that Blade form with the Gen 7 mechanics, not being able to go back into the Shield form.
No switch out though from Amoonguss. Doesn't want the Regenerator. Just gonna Rage Powder, saying, okay, if something does wake up this turn, we'll just make sure that it doesn't target my precious Salamence. Return into Metagross will bring it down. Do actually a pretty solid amount considering after the Dragon Dance, and the Metagross stays asleep as does Aegislash.
Yeah, I like the Rage Powder there just because if Metagross were to wake up there, it can go for Ice Punch. It was never intimidated, so it's very likely that it is going to KO the Salamence if he doesn't go for Rage Powder there. So a very good play, very understandable play. Metagross might be in Earthquake range now after the Dragon Dance, so definitely something that Ashton can opt for. If he's not certain that he can do it, he'll just knock out his Amoonguss though, and that'd be a really, really costly miss KO.
Could also go for the super next level play of switching in T-Tar to activate Weakness Policy. I know he did that in Oceania, and that was pretty cool, but that's not what Ashton goes for. Just to protect on Amoonguss. Aegislash staying asleep still. Earthquake, very, very easy, probable 2 knockouts here for Ashton. Metagross goes down and Aegislash goes down. So Amoonguss not doing damage, but stopping Sean from getting any attacks off thanks to those Spores and the Rage Powders. And Salamence gets the credit, but Amoonguss is the real MVP.
Yeah, I think even despite that crit, I think the Earthquake almost certainly would have knocked out the Metagross from that range after that ship damage. And we're going to see the Tapu Lele come in here, which is not going to be able to take a +1 return as we saw in the first game. We're also going to see Blaziken, which, as we saw earlier in his top 8 set, does not have HP Ice. It has Rock Slide, so can do a little bit of damage to Salamence once it gets that speed boost. But overall, not really threatening Salamence too much, and Salamence can just target down that Tapu Lele, try and pick up a knockout on it, and eventually just, wall out the Blaziken. The Blaziken's not going to do enough damage and will go down in 1 hit to that Salamance's return.
Right, and then you probably Ashton might want to get rid of the Tapu Lele here on this turn because Blaziken does have that chance of protecting, which many players do. They'll protect and get the speed boost, but no protect from Blaziken. Tapu Lele, see you later. Getting knocked out by Salamence's return. Rock Slide from Blaziken, not a knockout on either of Ashton's Pokemon, losing some of its HP from Life Orb and no chance of a Spore, which is probably what it went for since it didn't Rage Powder, but couldn't go for Spore because it was flinched.
Okay, so with that flinch, he was going for the Spore, like you said. Now, Ashton can either go for a Dragon Dance or a Protect. If Ashton does flinch on the Rock Slide on the following turn, if he doesn't Dragon Dance, he could be in a little bit of trouble. But because the Tapu Fini is in the back, I think he can just make the safe play and go for the return.
Yeah, Tapu Fini definitely has a favorable matchup against Blaziken. And Blaziken with a Protect, I was thinking maybe you can do a Rage Powder return, but instead Ashton does Switch Out return. Blaziken is faster now, probably after 2 speed boosts. It is a very fast Pokemon, and Salamence only has that 1 boost. But Tapu Fini, even, he's not worried. He can just Scald this Blaziken, even unless he gets Rock Slide flinched, which let's see if that happens. Salamence going down to around 30% of its HP. Blaziken losing more HP. Salamence flinches. Tapu Fini flinches. Sean has found a chance. With another speed boost, just going to be even faster. Can you just keep Rock Sliding your way the whole time? I don't know.
We like to say when there's Rock Slide, there's a way, but I think this is one situation where I don't even think Rock Slide will bail him out of. I think, Amoonguss can actually just keep switching out, and Blaziken might knock itself out to its own recoil before Rock Slide flinches enough.
Well, as Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the Rock Slides you don't take. Got to connect on both, losing more damage from Life Orb. Tapu Fini with the flinch and another speed boost. So that it kind of just more mentally hurts than physically because Tapu Fini can still clean this up when it ever doesn't flinch.
Yeah, and he's going to switch out, get the Regenerate like we said. Salamence is going to, again, take a lot of damage here. He's probably going to go down to this, and he'll get a free switch into whatever he wants in the back.
Yeah, Rock Slide. Super effective on Salamence. Does go down. Fini, help Ashton out here on this turn. Don't flinch and get a super effective Scald or whatever. Wow. I think at this point, this is like with Charizard in the Pokemon anime where he wouldn't listen to Ash. I think Tapu Fini's trying not to attack. He's trying to flinch.
Is that Tapu Koko in the back? The Tapu Koko is the one thing I don't think would be able to, it would take too much damage with the Rock Slide. It is going to be that Aegislash, though, something that will go into the Flare Blitz. So it looks like Sean's win condition is going to have to Rock Slide flinch both the Aegislash and the Tapu Fini, and then flinch them until the Amoonguss comes back in. Rock Slide flinch the Amoonguss and the Aegislash, and then once Aegislash once Tapu Fini and Amoonguss go down to Rock Slide, then you can Flare Blitz the Aegislash. Let's see if you can get like 3 or 4 more flinches.
Okay, now if the next one connects, it will knock out Tapu Fini. No! Tapu Fini, just a flare for the dramatic. Just wanted to make us sweat a little bit and see what would happen. Finally does not flinch, and with the Scald, knocks out that Blaziken. That I was starting to get really nervous.
Like we were still like maybe 4 or 5 Rock Slide flinches away from Ashton losing the game, but like he already had so many Rock Slide flinches go out of his favor. It got really, really close there.
Yeah, it's funny that Landorus is like the face of Rock Slide flinching in VGC, but Blaziken was doing his job better than Landorus was at that point, man. That was such a fun game. Of course, Sean could have won it. Obviously, it didn't start off as well as turn 1 of game 1 against Ashton did. Obviously, it can't with that just free knockout with the Z move, and that is the downside with Z moves is the Never-Ending Nightmare went into Amoonguss, and then all the damage it did was just gone, acting like nothing happened thanks to that recovery berry after eating the Z move.
Yeah, I think I kept preaching it before game 2, but just looking back to that game 1 in top 8 where he was just able to spore everything because his opponent wasn't able to knock out the Amoonguss on turn 1. So Sean did just that. Sean did not knock out the Amoonguss on turn 1. Ashton was able to get some spores off. Got a spore off on turn 2 on that Aegislash, which allowed Salamence to pretty freely set up a Dragon Dance and just start getting some damage on both the Metagross and the Aegislash.
So is the answer, if Amoonguss is clearly such a big nuisance, like a gnat for Sean's team, do you bring in Blaziken earlier? Do you not leave it as a late game sleeper with the Rock Slides? Do you try to threaten it from the get-go and force Amoonguss out? Because if it's not on the field, if it has to stay away because it's afraid of Blaziken, that means it can't Rage Powder and it can't Spore.
I think we're going to see either the Tapu Lele or the Blaziken come out very, very early in this game. Part of the problem with the Tapu Lele is that he doesn't have any form of Intimidate, so Salamence, if it chooses to go for a turn into that Tapu Lele, it's still going to be doing a massive amount of damage. It probably won't KO. Usually needs to be running on Double Edge to pick up the one-hit knockout on the non-bulky Leles. But
right, without the Dragon Dance.
Right. And a return on turn 1 probably does around 70, 80, 90%, somewhere in that range. So bit of a risky play on turn 1, but he can... it will take a lot of damage, but it will stop the Amoonguss if he does leave the Tapu Lele.
All right, Ashton Cox and Sean Bannen. Game 3 of your final top 4 match. The winner moves on to face Wolf Glick in the finals. Ashton has the lead of Amoonguss and Salamence, as Sean also the same lead that he brought in Game 2, Metagross and Aegislash.
So something that could have happened in that Game 2 is if Metagross went for Ice Punch into the Amoonguss instead of the Salamence, he would have gotten enough chip damage, likely not activated the berry on Amoonguss, and put the Amoonguss into Never-Ending Nightmare range. And that's definitely an option he has if he does think that Ashton's going to go for the same play. If Ashton does mix it up and just decides to go for something like a Dragon Dance and a Protect, though, that puts Sean so far behind, so he has to effectively call this turn very, very correctly.
Turn 1 was huge in Game 1. Turn 1 was huge in Game 2, and it looks like turn 1's going to be just as important in Game 3 here. Does Sean go for a double target to knock out the Amoonguss? Does he even go for a Z-move? No switches at this point, so Salamence does not Mega Evolve, but Metagross does. Salamence with a Protect, Amoonguss with a Protect. Sean, did you throw off your Z-move this turn with two Pokemon protecting? That's what Ashton wants to guess on, and Ashton guessed right.
This Never-Ending Nightmare likely into the Amoonguss, but this might not be the end of the world for Sean. That little bit of chip damage that you're going to get from the Never-Ending Nightmare through the Protect might put him into range where that Iron Head might not knock the Amoonguss down to berry range, and then a Shadow Ball would be able to follow up and pick up a knockout on the Amoonguss. The only problem is that Aegislash is in Blade form now, does have to worry about a potential Earthquake from the Mega Salamence, as we saw. He has used it in the past games, does do a lot of damage to that Aegislash in the Blade form. Yeah,
barring a critical hit, it really looks like since that Never-Ending Nightmare did such insignificant damage, there's really no way the Iron Head would do enough to put Amoonguss under 25% of its HP to activate that berry. So I think this is that was the right call. And then we've seen many times Amoonguss Protect, Salamence Earthquake. At this point, that could be a good option for Ashton to go for, again, since both Aegislash and Metagross are weak to Earthquake.
Yeah, he did Protect last turn, but he could do something like switching to the Tyranitar, like you said in the last game, get the weakness policy to activate. He would have to take something like an Iron Head, though, which is not what he wants to do. So might just be giving up the Amoonguss here. It's really important that he gets that Salamence set up, as we saw. Once he got it set up in that game too, it was able to just wreck house. But without the opposing Pokemon asleep, it might be harder to keep those boosts if he does go for Dragon Dance.
Amoonguss with a Rage Powder here, taking away that Iron Head. Of course, probably targeting Amoonguss anyway. Brings it down to under half its HP. Salamence going to do more damage here, and because of the speed tiers, it's not going to knock out its own teammate. No crit. So now Amoonguss is under 25% of its HP, will be able to recover with its 50% berry being the, wait for it, because I'm blanking on the Wiki Berry. Okay, they all do the same thing. I just like to know which berry it is. So that was actually huge because Sean understood. He was agreeing with you, Tommy, that the best way to handle Amoonguss was not let it get its Wiki Berry recovery. And Ashton, knowing that, saying, okay, I'll help my teammate out. And he essentially healed his Amoonguss for 50%.
Yeah, and Ashton could have just gone for something like a Dragon Dance there, but making the play, knocking out the Aegislash as soon as possible, making sure that it can't fire off Shadow Balls, seeing how hard it can deal it when it does go back into that shield form, just being able to do so much damage. But Tapu Lele comes in here now and is still going to be threatened a little bit by the Salamence.
Salamence will Protect. Remember, no Dragon Dance yet. So as of right now, Sean's Metagross is faster than Ashton's Salamence. A Protect, Moonblast going into that Protect, and then the Metagross Ice Punch going into Amungus's protect. So even Sean kind of guessed that Salamence would protect, and he's like, okay, I'll Ice Punch the Amoonguss instead, but Ashton actually protected both.
Yeah, that Tapu Lele is showing its likely choice scarf there, so Rage Powder is going to be able to redirect that Moonblast and make sure that Amoonguss does take 2 hits and give Salamence a free attack.
Tapu Lele with a Moonblast, a resisted Moonblast into the Amoonguss. Will lower its special attack, not going to matter obviously, and an Ice Punch onto Amoonguss as well. Super effective. Finally, that pesky Amoonguss goes down. Sean must not be a fan of mushrooms in real life since he's been targeting it so much, but Salamence has the Dragon Dance, increasing attack and speed, and now is not afraid of Ice Punch because he can Earthquake Metagross.
Well, Ashton can pick up a knockout on either the Metagross or the Tapu Lele here with Return or Earthquake respectively, but he has no way to stop a Moonblast or an Ice Punch from going into the Salamence, and without the Amoonguss, he has no way to redirect it now. So he might have to, give up a trade here if he wants to pick up a knockout this turn, and we're going to see that Aegislash come in. That is a favorable trade for Ashton, though. If he wants to, pick up a knockout on the Tapu Lele with Return, he can then fire off a Shadow Ball into the Metagross if it decides it wants to take a KO on that Salamence and go for something like Ice Punch.
So as in Aegislash would King Shield and he goes for Earthquake, or did I mishear what you were saying?
He could go for something like Return into Tapu Lele and Shadow Ball into Metagross. That allows him to make sure he picks up a knockout here, and if Metagross wants to go for the Ice Punch here into the Salamence.
And then Aegislash can handle Metagross. Okay, all right. Let's see if that's what Ashton wants. Ice Punch onto Salamence. Not intimidated, so that will be a one-hit knockout. And now it is Aegislash against Metagross, and Metagross does not like this matchup. Taking its sword out, going into Blade form, Shadow Ball into a half-health Mega Metagross will get the knockout. So Sean is down to his final Pokemon. That Pokemon has not been revealed yet, but what we saw in Game 2 was he left Blaziken in the back.
Yeah, for Sean, we want to see probably Blaziken, and it is Blaziken, so that is something that can potentially knock out the Aegislash. And it is Tapu Fini, which is definitely what you want to see if it's Ashton. I think we're down to, can he get some more Rock Slide flinches? He's going to have to Rock Slide flinch that Tapu Fini quite a lot.
He's used up enough Rock Slides, that luck for the next couple of tournaments. That's how many Rock Slide flinches he got in Game 2, and that's what I'm sure. Of course, because if you want to super effectively hit Blaziken, well, you're going to Flare Blitz, you're going to do even more damage to yourself, and you have Life Orb on Blaziken, so Tapu Fini is free to Scald until this Blaziken goes down, as long, again, as there is no flinches. Rock Slide connecting on Tapu Fini, doesn't do a lot of damage, but Fini breaks through, there's the handshake, and Ashton Cox is moving on to the finals of the Charlotte Regional Championship.
Yeah, absolutely awesome games. A little bit of scary end game in games 2 and 3. The Rock Slide potentially coming into effect, but Ashton eventually not flinching, connecting with his moves, and moving on to finals to have a rematch against Wolf Glick. Has played him in Swiss this tournament, has played him in finals of regionals before.
That's right, Wolf won in Swiss against Ashton. We had that on stream yesterday.
Yeah, played him in Swiss, played him in finals in 2015 at the Massachusetts Regional Championships, played him in top 4 that year as well. So they have a very, very long history together, especially at the regional championships in Top Cut. So going to be an absolutely awesome rematch, and I can't wait to see who wins.
Yeah, and let's have a little shout out to Sean Bannen for making it to top 4, being associated with the names like Ashton Cox and Wolf Glick, seeing that he was up there. That's such a big accomplishment for him. And as you said, top 4 of the North American International Championships last year in 2017, and he is not slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah. It's going to be a great match. You guys should definitely stay tuned because this is probably what you guys wanted the entire weekend. 2 of the best names in VGC, Ashton Cox, Wolf Glick, playing for the regional championship here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, so you heard it from Tommy. Go tell everybody you know. Wolf Glick, Ashton Cox in the finals. We will be back here at Battle Factory VGC.